Hello there, and welcome to the channel. Tonight we'll be drifting gently beneath the surface of our planet to explore one of Earth's most quiet and mysterious realms. We'll discover the remarkable ways life has learned not just to survive, but to exist peacefully in a world of darkness, pressure, and immense time. The deep ocean is a place most of us will never see, yet it shapes the world we live in every day. It regulates Earth's climate, stores vast amounts of carbon, and shelters forms of life so unusual they seem almost imagined. Far below the waves, beyond the reach of sunlight, entire ecosystems carry on in silence, unchanged by the noise of the surface world. Life in the deep ocean does not rush. It does not compete loudly for attention. It glows softly in the darkness, drifts with slow precision, and waits patiently for food that falls from far above. Some creatures there have existed in similar forms for tens of millions of years, while others grow so slowly that a single lifetime can span centuries. Each one is a quiet solution to an extreme problem, a small piece of a much larger story that connects the ocean, the land, and the air above. If you enjoy these gentle journeys, I invite you to like and subscribe, or share a favourite moment in the comments. It helps this space continue to grow, one calm listener at a time. But for now, there's nothing you need to do. You don't need to stay alert or remember details. Just listen, breathe gently, and allow your thoughts to slow as the deep ocean reveals itself, layer by layer. Let's begin. The deep ocean often feels like a world of complete darkness, but in many ways it is filled with light. Not sunlight, and not the kind of light we use on the surface, but a living light created by the creatures themselves. This phenomenon is called bioluminescence, and it is one of the most common forms of communication and survival in the deep sea. When early sailors crossed calm waters at night, they sometimes witnessed something extraordinary. As their ships cut through the ocean, the water around them began to glow. Oars dipped into darkness emerged, traced in pale blue light. Fish breaking the surface left brief streaks behind them, like sparks dissolving into the sea. Some sailors described it as sailing through liquid stars, as though the night sky had slipped beneath the waves. What they were seeing was life responding to movement, tiny organisms disturbed by motion, releasing light stored within their bodies. In the deep ocean, this ability is everywhere. Scientists estimate that most deep-sea animals can produce light in some form, using it to communicate, to hide, or to confuse predators. The light itself is almost always blue. This is because blue light travels farther through water than any other colour. Reds and yellows are absorbed quickly, vanishing within the first few meters below the surface. Blue, however, can travel long distances, making it the most effective colour for visibility in the deep. Over millions of years, life adapted to this simple rule of physics. Some creatures glow only when touched or disturbed, creating sudden flashes meant to startle attackers. Others produce steady light, matching the faint glow from above to erase their own silhouettes, and some use light as a lure, drawing curious prey closer in the darkness. In this world without sunlight, light becomes language, camouflage, and tool all at once. One of the most beautiful displays comes from plankton so small they are invisible during the day. When water filled with these organisms is stirred, the movement triggers a chain reaction of glowing pulses. A swimmer passing through such water might see their hands outlined in light. Dolphins swimming at night can appear wrapped in glowing trails, their bodies traced in soft blue as they move. To the animals producing it, this light is not decoration. It is simply part of how life works here. Energy is limited in the deep ocean, so nothing is wasted. Every glow serves a purpose, shaped by countless generations adapting to a place where efficiency means survival. As you imagine these drifting lights beneath the waves, it becomes easier to think of the deep ocean as a second night sky, a hidden universe where stars do not burn but breathe, where constellations appear and vanish without names, and where life continues quietly, unseen, beneath the surface of the world we know. The deep ocean is often imagined as a place of complete darkness, but in reality it is filled with light of its own making. Not the steady light of the sun, and not the harsh glow we create above the surface, but brief, deliberate sparks that appear and vanish in the water without sound. Long before humans ever wondered what lived beneath the waves, this quiet exchange of light was already shaping life below. For centuries, people caught glimpses of this hidden world without understanding it. Sailors crossing calm seas at night sometimes noticed the water glowing around their ships. As the hull moved forward, pale blue light unfurled in its wake, curling and dissolving behind them. Oars dipped into the sea emerged traced in light. Fish breaking the surface left luminous outlines that lingered for a heartbeat before fading away. To those who witnessed it, the experience felt almost unreal. Some believed the ocean itself was alive with fire. Others thought the stars had somehow slipped beneath the waves. These moments were recorded again and again in old ship logs, described in careful handwriting by men who had no language for what they were seeing, only the certainty that it was beautiful and strange. What they were witnessing was not a rare event, but a surface expression of something far more widespread below. Tiny organisms, disturbed by movement, releasing light stored within their bodies. These organisms were plankton, many of them microscopic, drifting freely in the water, carried by currents rather than by choice. During the day they passed unnoticed. At night they transformed the sea into something luminous. In the deep ocean, bioluminescence is not an exception. It is one of the most common ways life interacts with its surroundings. Scientists now believe that the majority of animals living below the reach of sunlight can produce light in some form. Some glow continuously, others only when touched, and many only in moments when light becomes necessary. The reason light plays such an important role in the deep sea begins with the way sunlight behaves underwater. Water absorbs light quickly, filtering out colours as depth increases. Reds disappear first, followed by oranges and yellows. Even green fades away not far below the surface. Blue light, however, travels farther than any other colour, scattering less and persisting longer. By the time sunlight reaches its deepest limits, only faint traces of blue remain. Over millions of years, life adapted to this reality. Creatures that produced blue light were more visible to others like them while remaining nearly invisible to anything else. Blue became the language of light in the ocean, not because it was chosen, but because it worked. The light itself comes from a chemical reaction inside the body. A molecule called luciferin reacts with oxygen, guided by an enzyme known as luciferase. The reaction releases energy as light, producing almost no heat. This efficiency matters in a place where energy is scarce and food arrives slowly. In the deep ocean, nothing can afford to be wasteful. Plankton offer one of the clearest examples of how this light is used. When disturbed, they emit brief flashes, not to illuminate their surroundings, but to protect themselves. The sudden glow can startle predators or draw attention away from any single individual. In large numbers, these tiny flashes combine into waves of light that ripple through the water. Entire stretches of ocean sometimes glow at once. Waves break into pale blue fire. A swimmer passing through such water may see their movements traced in light, each motion leaving a fading signature behind. Dolphins swimming through plankton blooms can appear wrapped in glowing outlines, their bodies carving luminous paths through the darkness. Yet even in these moments, the light never lingers. It fades quickly, returning the sea to blackness. This fleeting quality is part of what makes bioluminescence so effective. The glow appears, serves its purpose, and disappears. Nothing remains longer than it needs to. For the plankton, this light is not decoration. It is instinct, a reflex shaped by countless generations of survival. Energy is precious in the deep ocean, and light is released only when it matters. Sailors who witnessed glowing seas often described a strange sense of calm alongside their wonder. The ocean felt alive but not threatening, responsive but not chaotic. The light followed movement, then rested again. It was as if the sea acknowledged their presence, and then quietly returned to itself. What those sailors could not see was that this glowing surface was only the faintest edge of a much larger world below. Most bioluminescent life never comes near the surface at all. It exists permanently in darkness, where its light is seen only by others adapted to perceive it. In those depths, light becomes more than a reaction. It becomes communication, a signal sent across open water where sound travels differently and sight is limited. A brief flash can announce presence, warn others away, or invite something closer. The deep ocean begins to resemble a night sky turned inward. Points of light scattered across immense darkness, separated by vast distances, each glow alive, each one meaningful. Not fixed like stars, but drifting, responding, vanishing. Darkness here is not empty. It is simply spacious, a background against which life expresses itself with care. And within that darkness, the first hints of a deeper pattern begin to emerge. As researchers spent more time observing the deep ocean directly, rather than imagining it from the surface, they began to notice that bioluminescence was not random at all. It followed quiet rules shaped by depth, distance, and the slow physics of water. Light appeared where it was useful, and nowhere else. In the upper reaches of the deep sea, where the last traces of sunlight still filter down as a dim blue haze, many animals use light reactively. A sudden touch, a passing shadow, or a shift in pressure can trigger a brief flash. These flashes are short and sharp, meant to disrupt a moment rather than illuminate it. But as depth increases and sunlight disappears completely, light becomes more deliberate. In these darker layers, animals are often able to control their light with surprising precision. Some can turn it on and off like a switch. Others can adjust its brightness or shape, focusing it forward, downward, or outward in a controlled glow. This ability allows them to share space with others without constantly revealing themselves. In an environment where encounters are rare and distances are vast, being selective about when you are seen matters. Water at these depths is often remarkably clear. With fewer particles drifting through it, light can travel farther than expected. There are no reefs or coastlines to interrupt it, no walls to reflect it back. A single glow can drift outward into open water, thinning gradually as it goes. Because of this, many creatures keep their signals brief. A longer glow would travel farther, reaching eyes that were never meant to see it. This restraint shapes the character of the deep ocean. There are no constant beacons, no steady illumination. Instead, there is a quiet awareness that something could appear at any moment, then be gone again. Life announces itself sparingly, trusting darkness to do most of the work. Some animals take advantage of this by using light to erase themselves rather than reveal themselves. Predators in the deep often hunt by looking upward, searching for silhouettes against the faint glow filtering down from above. To counter this, certain species produce light along their undersides, carefully matching the brightness of the water above them. From below, their bodies blend seamlessly into the background, their outlines dissolving into the dim blue haze. Light, in this case, becomes invisibility. Other creatures use light as a kind of misdirection. When threatened, they may release clouds of glowing particles, filling the surrounding water with drifting points of light. For a moment, the space becomes crowded with false targets. The predator's attention is pulled outward, while the animal itself slips away into darkness. The glow lingers just long enough to confuse, then fades. There are also animals that use light to find one another in a world where sound behaves unpredictably, and touch requires closeness. Patterns of flashes act as identifiers, allowing members of the same species to recognize each other across open water. These signals are often subtle, tuned to specific wavelengths and rhythms that other creatures may not even notice. What all of these strategies share is economy. Light is never wasted. It is released only when it serves a clear function. This economy extends to every aspect of life in the deep ocean. Food arrives slowly, often falling from far above as fragments of organic matter. A single meal may need to sustain an animal for long stretches of time. Movement is slow, growth is gradual, everything is paced to match the environment. Because of this, the deep sea feels spacious rather than crowded. Life is spread thinly across immense volumes of water. Distances that would feel empty to us are simply normal here. Space is not something to cross quickly, but something to exist within. Modern explorers often describe the deep ocean as peaceful, despite its extremes. When submersibles descend with their lights dimmed, the darkness does not feel threatening. Instead, it feels wide and patient. Small flashes appear in response to movement, then vanish. There is a sense of being noticed, but not challenged. Cameras mounted on deep-sea vehicles sometimes capture brief glimmers at the edge of the frame, lights that appear and disappear before they can be fully understood. These moments hint at how much remains unseen. For every light recorded, there are countless others that pass unnoticed, exchanged between creatures adapted to read them. These sailors who once wrote about glowing seas were seeing only the faintest surface expression of this world. Beneath them, far beyond the reach of their imagination, life was already speaking in light, following rules shaped by darkness and distance. The ocean did not put on those displays for human eyes. It responded only to disturbance, then returned to itself. Thinking of the deep ocean as a second night sky helps make sense of this behavior. In the sky above us, stars are separated by immense distances, yet together they form patterns that guide navigation and inspire stories. In the ocean below, points of light appear against darkness, not fixed in place, but drifting and responding. Each one marks a living presence, however briefly. The darkness between those points is not empty. It is filled with water, pressure, and time. It holds currents that move slowly but persistently. It carries chemical signals and vibrations that animals learn to read as easily as we read faces. Light is only one layer of awareness in a much richer sensory world. As depth increases further, even these scattered lights become less common, not because life disappears, but because the balance shifts once again. Energy grows scarcer, signals grow shorter, presence becomes something to guard carefully. In this way, the deep ocean teaches a quiet lesson. Visibility is not always an advantage. Sometimes survival depends on knowing when not to be seen, on trusting darkness to provide cover rather than fearing it. Beyond this realm of drifting lights and careful signals lies another layer of the ocean entirely, a place where sunlight has vanished for good and life adapts once more, guided not by faint glow from above, but by pressure, chemistry, and the slow movement of water through immense depth. As the scattered lights of the deep ocean grow less frequent, the darkness does not arrive all at once. It deepens gradually, layer by layer, in a way that feels almost gentle. This is the region scientists call the Twilight Zone, a vast middle world suspended between the bright surface above and the complete darkness below. Here, sunlight still exists, but only barely. It arrives weakened and diluted, stripped of warmth and colour. Reds and yellows are long gone. Even greens have faded. What remains is a thin bluish glow that seeps downward during the day, never bright enough to cast shadows, never strong enough to illuminate details. It is light without clarity, presence without definition. In this half-lit world, the ocean feels endless. There is no clear boundary marking where day ends and night begins. Instead, brightness thins slowly, like fog lifting or settling. The change is so gradual that it is difficult to say exactly where one world gives way to the next. This slow fading of light shapes everything that lives here. Creatures in the Twilight Zone are adapted not to brightness or darkness, but to uncertainty. Their world is never fully lit, yet never entirely black. Vision still matters, but it must work under constant limitation. Many animals here have eyes larger than expected for their body size, built to gather every available photon. Some eyes are tubular, pointing upward rather than forward, designed to detect silhouettes against the faint glow above. Others are sensitive to movement more than shape, tuned to notice the slightest change in contrast. Colour becomes less important. Patterns simplify. Bodies often take on shades of silver, black, or deep red. Red may seem like a strange choice, but in the Twilight Zone, red light no longer exists. Red bodies appear black, making them nearly invisible. This is a place of quiet adaptation rather than dramatic transformation. Creatures are not racing to outrun predators or chase prey across long distances. Instead, they drift. They hover. They wait. The water here moves slowly, carrying animals with it. Many species expend as little energy as possible, allowing currents to do most of the work. Fins are used sparingly. Movements are small and deliberate. Every action is measured against the cost it demands. Food in the Twilight Zone is unpredictable. Some arrives from above, sinking slowly through the water as fragments of dead plants and animals. This falling material, often called marine snow, drifts downward in a constant gentle shower. Tiny particles barely visible settling slowly through the water column. Other food sources come from movement. Small animals feed on plankton that rise toward the surface at night. Larger animals feed on those smaller ones. But nothing here feeds constantly. Meals are spaced out. Waiting is part of life. Perhaps the most remarkable behavior in the Twilight Zone happens every single night, unseen by most of the world. As daylight fades at the surface, billions of animals begin to move upward. This event is known as vertical migration, and it is the largest daily movement of life on Earth. Creatures that spent the day hundreds of meters below the surface slowly rise toward the light. They do not rush. The movement unfolds over hours. Fish, squid, and plankton drift upward together, following internal rhythms shaped by light levels rather than clocks. They rise to feed under the cover of darkness, where the risk of being seen by predators is lower. Near the surface, plankton are more abundant. Food is easier to find. The darkness offers protection that daylight does not. Then, as dawn approaches, the movement reverses. The same animals sink back into deeper water, returning to the twilight zone before sunlight grows strong enough to reveal them. This daily migration has been happening for millions of years, long before humans noticed it, shaping ocean ecosystems in ways we're still trying to understand. The scale of this movement is difficult to imagine. Trillions of individual organisms participate, rising and falling together across vast areas of ocean. It is a slow, silent procession, invisible from the surface, yet essential to the flow of energy through the sea. In the twilight zone, nothing is wasted. Even the act of moving upward and downward plays a role in cycling nutrients, transporting carbon from the surface to deeper waters. Life here connects worlds that rarely touch directly. Despite its importance, the Twilight Zone remains one of the least explored regions of the ocean. It is too deep for traditional diving, yet too shallow and expansive for easy study with deep-sea submersibles. For a long time, it existed mostly as a blank space on scientific maps. Only recently have researchers begun to appreciate just how full this region is. Sonar scans reveal dense layers of life drifting through the water, appearing and disappearing as animals migrate. What once seemed empty is now understood to be alive with slow, constant motion. To imagine living here is to imagine a life shaped by restraint. A world where brightness never overwhelms, where darkness never fully arrives, and where survival depends on patience more than speed. The Twilight Zone does not reward aggression. It rewards timing. Creatures here learn when to move and when to remain still. They learn to read subtle changes in light and pressure. They learn to exist comfortably in between extremes. This in-between quality gives the Twilight Zone its character. It is neither the lively, sunlit surface nor the absolute darkness of the deep. It is a threshold, a place of transition, where life practices moderation. As depth increases and the last traces of sunlight weaken further, even this dim glow begins to slip away. The ocean prepares to shift once more, guiding its inhabitants toward a world where light is no longer a given, but a memory. As the animals sink back down with the coming of dawn, the Twilight Zone settles into a quieter state. The faint blue glow that lingered during the day thins even more, until it becomes difficult to tell whether there is any light left at all. It is not darkness in the absolute sense, but something close to it. A dimness so uniform that shapes dissolve and distance becomes hard to judge. In this light, movement slows further. Creatures suspend themselves in the water, buoyed by tissues rich in lipids, or by delicate adjustments of fins and body angle. Many of them are nearly weightless here, neither rising nor falling unless they choose to. This balance allows them to wait without effort, conserving energy in a place where every calorie matters. Vision still plays a role, but it is no longer about seeing far. It is about noticing change, a shadow passing above, a faint shimmer where none existed before, a slight shift in contrast against an otherwise even field of blue-grey. Eyes in this zone are often tuned to a narrow range of wavelengths, ignoring everything else. Some can detect the briefest flash of bioluminescence from great distances, while remaining blind to constant light. Other senses become more important as well. Subtle pressure waves move through the water when something swims nearby. chemical traces linger longer here than they would in the turbulent surface layers. Even the faintest disturbance can carry information. Life in the Twilight Zone is attentive without being alert in the way we understand it. There is no constant scanning, no frantic readiness. Awareness is quiet and continuous. The bodies of these animals reflect this way of living. Many are slender, elongated, or flattened, offering little resistance to the water. Some are almost transparent, their internal organs faintly visible, allowing light to pass through them rather than bounce off. Others are dark and matte, absorbing what little light remains. Sharp edges and bright patterns are rare. Smoothness and subtlety are favoured. Feeding in this zone often means taking advantage of opportunity rather than pursuit. Predators may hover motionless for long periods, waiting for prey to drift close enough. When they strike, it is brief and efficient. There is no chase. Energy spent cannot always be replaced quickly. Those that feed on marine snow collect it patiently, filtering tiny particles from the water or catching them as they sink. Each fragment is small, but together they sustain life across enormous spans of time. In the Twilight Zone, abundance is measured not by how much arrives at once, but by how steadily it continues. The daily rise and fall of animals does more than provide food. It connects the surface and the depths in a slow, rhythmic exchange. When creatures feed near the surface at night and return downward by day, they carry carbon with them in their bodies. Over time, this movement helps transport material from the atmosphere into the deep ocean, where it can be stored for centuries. This process happens quietly, without ceremony, yet it plays a role in regulating the planet itself. The Twilight Zone is not just a habitat, it is a pathway, a living corridor through which energy and matter flow between worlds. Because of its depth and scale, this region remained largely unseen until recently. Early sonar studies revealed strange shifting layers in the water column that appeared at night and vanished by day. For a long time, scientists were unsure what they were seeing. Only later did it become clear that these were vast communities of animals moving together, following the dimming and brightening of the sky above. Even now, much of this world remains only partially understood. Nets bring up fragile creatures that dissolve before they can be studied properly. Cameras capture brief glimpses of forms that disappear into darkness before their behavior can be fully observed. The Twilight Zone resists easy explanation, not through hostility, but through scale and subtlety. To exist here is to live between extremes, between light and dark, between abundance and scarcity, between motion and stillness. Nothing happens quickly, yet nothing is truly static. Life adjusts constantly but gently, guided by changes so gradual they are barely perceptible. As depth increases further, the last usable light finally gives way. The blue haze thins until it no longer carries information. Vision yields its dominance to other senses. The Twilight Zone releases its hold, and the ocean prepares to become something else entirely. Below lies a realm where light no longer arrives at all, where pressure grows immense, and where life adapts not to fading sunlight, but to its complete absence. Far below the reach of light, the ocean does not feel dramatic. There is no sense of danger announcing itself. Nothing crashes, nothing roars. What defines this place is something far quieter and far more constant. The water presses in from every direction, evenly and without pause. This pressure is not something creatures encounter. It is something they are born into. From the moment life takes shape here, every cell develops under forces that would crush most surface animals instantly. And because it is constant, because it never eases, it becomes invisible to those who live within it. For humans, pressure is something external, something we notice when our ears pop or our bodies strain. In the deep ocean, pressure is simply the background condition of reality. Life does not resist it. Life accommodates it. This is why so many deep-sea animals look the way they do. Their bodies are not built to hold shape against gravity because gravity barely matters here. Water carries their weight. Instead, their bodies are built to remain intact when squeezed from all sides at once. Rigid structures are rare. Where surface animals rely on stiff bones and dense muscle to move against air, deep-sea creatures often rely on flexibility. Their tissues bend. Their bodies compress slightly. Nothing pushes back. Many of them are made mostly of water, not in a poetic sense, but literally. Jellyfish, comb jellies, and countless other gelatinous animals have bodies so similar in density to the surrounding water that pressure passes through them almost unnoticed. There is very little internal difference for the force to act upon. To a surface observer, these animals can look unfinished, even fragile. Transparent bells, soft trailing limbs, shapes that seem barely held together. But this softness is not a flaw. It is a solution refined over millions of years. Hardness would be a liability here. Anything rigid would need constant reinforcement to avoid cracking. Flexibility, on the other hand, allows survival with minimal energy cost. Even animals that do possess bones often have them reduced or modified. Skeletons may be lighter, thinner, or partially replaced by cartilage. Some fish have bones so delicate they would collapse under their own weight if brought to the surface too quickly. In their own world, however, they function perfectly. The chemistry inside these bodies is just as specialized. Proteins that would lose their shape under high pressure near the surface are stabilized here by subtle molecular adjustments. Enzymes remain functional, cell membranes stay fluid. Life continues its basic processes without interruption, even under conditions that seem extreme to us. Movement follows the same principle of efficiency. Speed is expensive. Sudden motion burns energy that may not be replaced for a long time. As a result, many deep-sea animals move slowly, or not at all for extended periods. Some hover almost motionless, using tiny fin adjustments to stay suspended. Others drift entirely, carried by currents so gentle they are barely perceptible. Waiting is not passive here. It is an active strategy. Predators do not patrol. They position themselves. They remain still until something comes close enough to matter. When they strike, it is brief and decisive. There is no pursuit afterward. The effort would outweigh the reward. This slowness shapes the entire character of the deep ocean. Time stretches. Events unfold gradually. Nothing feels rushed. Life exists on a different tempo, one where patience is more valuable than strength. Sound is rare here as well. Without waves, wind, or constant movement, the water remains quiet. Vibrations carry far, but they are few. When something moves, it is often felt before it is seen, sensed as a faint shift rather than a noise. In this silence, awareness becomes subtle. Creatures rely on pressure changes, chemical traces, and tiny disturbances in the water. Sensory systems are tuned not for overload, but for sensitivity. Even reproduction reflects this environment. Many species release eggs and sperm slowly, allowing currents to disperse them gently. Others carry their young for long periods, investing heavily in a small number of offspring rather than producing many at once. Risk is minimized wherever possible. What emerges from all of this is a world that does not fight its conditions. It accepts them fully. Every part of life here is shaped by pressure and quiet, by the absence of urgency, by the understanding that survival depends on fitting in rather than standing out. The deep ocean is not harsh in the way we imagine. It is demanding but consistent. And in consistency, life finds room to adapt. Longevity in this environment is not something that needs to be earned through strength or dominance. It emerges naturally from stillness. When bodies are supported by water, and movement is optional rather than necessary, wear happens slowly. Many deep-sea animals grow at a pace that feels almost imperceptible. A fish may take decades to reach its adult size, not because it struggles, but because there is no reason to hurry. Time here stretches rather than pushes. Metabolism reflects this patience. Hearts beat slowly, sometimes only a handful of times per minute. Oxygen is scarce in the deep, yet the animals that live here extract nearly everything they can from each breath. Blood chemistry is adapted to bind oxygen efficiently, and tissues tolerate levels that would quickly overwhelm surface animals. Survival depends not on speed, but on balance. Food arrives unpredictably, and when it does, it must last. Many deep-sea creatures store energy in the form of oils and fats, often concentrated in large livers. These reserves serve several purposes at once. They provide long-term energy, help regulate buoyancy, and reduce the need for frequent feeding. In some species, the liver becomes so dominant that it defines the animal's shape, giving it a swollen or soft appearance that would seem unhealthy at the surface but is perfectly functional here. Buoyancy itself is handled differently in this world. Gas-filled swim bladders, common in shallow water fish, are rare or absent at great depth. Gas compresses under pressure, making it unreliable. Instead, many deep-sea fish rely on oils and lightweight tissues to maintain their position in the water. This allows them to hover without effort, neither sinking nor rising unless they choose to. Bones, where they exist, are often thin and lightly mineralized. Muscle mass is reduced. Strength is traded for efficiency. Even the way these animals feed reflects restraint. Mouths are often large relative to body size, not to pursue prey aggressively, but to take advantage of rare opportunities. When food appears, it may be swallowed whole, regardless of size, because another chance may not come soon. Digestion is slow, nutrients are extracted carefully, nothing is wasted. Silence continues to shape behavior as well. Without constant noise from waves or weather, the deep ocean remains acoustically calm. Vibrations travel far, and animals are sensitive to them, but they occur infrequently. A passing movement, a struggling prey item, or a distant shift in current can be detected long before it is seen. This sensitivity allows animals to remain still until action is necessary. Reproduction follows the same pattern of careful investment. Many species produce fewer offspring, but invest more heavily in each one. Eggs may be larger, richer in nutrients, capable of sustaining development for long periods. Some animals brood their young, carrying them until they are well formed. Others release larvae that drift for months or even years before settling into deeper water. Development is slow, but survival rates can be high because conditions change little over time. There are no sudden storms here, no seasonal freezes, no rapid swings in temperature. Stability, rather than abundance, defines the deep ocean. Pressure remains constant. Temperature changes little. Day and night no longer matter. This consistency allows life to fine-tune itself with extraordinary precision. Every adaptation reflects the same principle. Endure rather than dominate. Yield rather than resist. What might seem like weakness from the surface is, in this environment, the most effective possible design. Softness allows pressure to pass through. Slowness conserves energy. Silence avoids attention. Life here does not announce itself. It persists. And as depth increases further, these principles do not disappear. They intensify. Bodies become even more specialized. Senses shift again, and the ocean moves fully into a realm where darkness is complete, and light, when it appears at all, is something created rather than received. Light does not disappear entirely when the ocean becomes dark. Instead, it changes ownership. In the absence of sunlight, light becomes something living things create for themselves, carefully and with intention. It is no longer background. It is message, disguise, invitation, and sometimes warning, all folded into the same quiet phenomenon. In this world, light is not decoration. It is language. Many deep-sea creatures produce light not to see, but to be seen in very specific ways, by very specific eyes. Bioluminescence becomes a form of conversation, shaped by distance, timing, and restraint. A brief glow can say something simple, like presence, or something more complex, like identity or readiness. Because encounters are rare and energy is precious, these signals are usually subtle. They are not broadcasts meant for everyone. They are directed messages meant for those who know how to read them. One of the most widespread uses of light is camouflage. In the deep ocean, many predators hunt by looking upward, searching for silhouettes against whatever faint glow filters down from above. To counter this, some animals produce light along their undersides, adjusting its brightness to match the water above them. From below, their bodies blend seamlessly into the dim background, their outlines softened until they almost disappear. This technique is often described as counter-illumination, but it is easier to think of it as a kind of nightlight carried beneath the body, glowing just enough to erase a shadow. The animal is not trying to vanish completely. It is trying to become unremarkable. This soft glow is carefully controlled. Sensors on the body detect how much light is present in the water above, and the animal adjusts its own brightness accordingly. Too much light would reveal it. Too little would leave a visible silhouette. Balance is everything. Other creatures use light not to hide, but to communicate. Patterns of flashes, pulses, or steady glows can identify species, signal readiness to mate, or establish territory. These patterns are often invisible to animals not tuned to see them. A flash that stands out clearly to one species may be meaningless noise to another. This selectivity keeps communication efficient and reduces the risk of attracting unwanted attention. In some cases, different species share a kind of visual vocabulary, responding to similar signals in different ways. A brief flash might cause one animal to approach while another retreats. Light becomes a way of negotiating space without contact. It allows animals to acknowledge each other at a distance, reducing the need for confrontation in an environment where recovery from injury is slow. Light is also used to hunt, but rarely in the dramatic way we imagine. The anglerfish is often cited as the most famous example, yet its behavior is far quieter than its reputation suggests. The glowing lure it carries is not a beacon meant to dazzle. It is a small, steady point of light, resembling the faint glimmer of bioluminescent organisms common in the deep. To nearby prey, it does not look like danger. It looks familiar. It looks like food, or like nothing at all. The anglerfish does not chase. It waits. The lure drifts gently in front of its mouth, moving with the water. When a curious animal comes close enough to investigate, the response is instant and efficient. There is no struggle, no pursuit. The light has already done its work. Other predators use light in different ways. Some release glowing clouds to confuse prey, others flash suddenly to startle, taking advantage of the momentary disorientation that follows. In each case, light is used sparingly, as a tool rather than a display. It appears only when it serves a clear purpose, then disappears again. There are also moments when light seems almost social. Schools of fish may flash in loose coordination, their bodies briefly outlining each other before fading back into darkness. Squid and other cephalopods can change the pattern and intensity of their light rapidly, producing sequences that appear to be exchanged between individuals. These interactions are difficult to interpret, but they suggest that light carries nuance, not just simple signals. What makes this living light remarkable is not its brightness, but its precision. Every glow is shaped by evolution to fit a particular role. Color, duration, intensity, and placement all matter. Blue dominates because it travels farthest, but some species produce red or even infrared light, invisible to most predators, allowing them to illuminate prey without revealing themselves. This hidden spectrum adds another layer to the deep-sea conversation, one that remains largely unseen by human eyes. For the animals that live here, darkness is not an obstacle to communication. It is the medium that makes communication possible. Against a black background, even the smallest light becomes meaningful. Yet because attention can be dangerous, that meaning is offered briefly and withdrawn quickly. Light flickers, answers, fades. The ocean remains mostly dark, punctuated by moments of quiet exchange. Over time, these exchanges weave a subtle network of awareness through the water. Creatures rarely collide by accident. They sense one another's presence long before they meet. Light allows them to navigate not just space, but relationship, helping them decide when to approach, when to wait, and when to remain unseen. In this way, the deep ocean is not silent in the way we imagine. It is speaking constantly, just not in sound. Its language is written in brief illuminations, each one shaped by need, by restraint, and by a deep familiarity with darkness. Light in this world is rarely wasted on spectacle. It is shaped to fit the limits of attention, appearing only long enough to be understood. Many deep-sea animals are capable of producing light in more than one way, changing its pattern or intensity depending on context. A slow, steady glow may serve one purpose, while a rapid pulse may serve another. These variations allow a single organism to say different things without ever making a sound. Some species use repeating flashes as a way to maintain distance. When another animal approaches too closely, a brief signal may appear, not aggressive, not inviting, simply informative. It says something is already here. In a place where collisions can be costly and energy is conserved, this kind of quiet boundary setting matters. Encounters that might become physical in brighter environments often remain visual here, resolved before contact is made. There are also moments when light functions as reassurance. Certain animals produce faint glows when moving together, allowing individuals to keep track of one another without clustering too tightly. These lights are not synchronized in a strict sense, but they follow a shared rhythm, appearing and fading in ways that maintain loose connection across distance. The group stays aware without becoming dense. Space is preserved. Some of the most delicate uses of light involve recognition. In the deep ocean, where many bodies share similar shapes and colors, small differences in light patterns can carry identity. A particular sequence of flashes, a specific placement of glowing organs, or a subtle timing difference can distinguish one species from another, or even one individual from another. These distinctions reduce costly mistakes. Approaching the wrong animal can mean wasted energy or danger. Light can also mark readiness. In some species, changes in glow signal reproductive state. These signals are often visible only at close range, limiting exposure. The exchange is brief and precise, reducing the time spent vulnerable. Once the interaction is complete, the lights dim again and the animals separate, returning to their solitary drift. Not all light is under direct control. In some organisms, bioluminescence is triggered by contact. A touch releases a flash, an automatic response shaped by survival. This sudden light can startle a predator or draw attention elsewhere, buying a moment of escape. The light fades quickly, leaving no trail to follow. Even reflexive light serves restraint. There are cases where light seems to spill beyond its immediate function, creating moments that feel almost incidental. A slow-moving animal may brush past another, triggering a faint glow that outlines both bodies for a second before dissolving. Nothing is communicated intentionally, yet awareness passes between them. They adjust their paths slightly, avoiding collision, and continue on. These exchanges are brief and wordless, but they shape movement across the deep. Different species often respond differently to the same light. What draws one animal closer may warn another away. This layered meaning allows the same signal to serve multiple purposes simultaneously. The deep ocean does not rely on a single shared language. It supports many overlapping ones, each tuned to the senses and needs of its users. Some animals take advantage of this complexity by producing light that few others can see. Red light, for example, is rare in the deep ocean because it does not travel far, but some predators generate it anyway, illuminating prey that cannot detect it. To those animals, the world remains dark, even as they are fully visible to their hunter. Light here becomes a private tool rather than a shared signal. Other creatures host glowing bacteria, forming partnerships that allow continuous light production without constant effort. These bacteria live in specialized organs, fed by their host and protected in return. The relationship is stable and long-lasting. The host gains reliable illumination. The bacteria gain a safe environment. Even light in this world is often the result of cooperation rather than isolation. Over time, these countless small uses of light create a landscape of awareness that is constantly shifting. The ocean is never fully dark, but it is never bright either. Instead, it is punctuated by moments of clarity, each one brief and purposeful. The darkness between them is not emptiness. It is space left intentionally unfilled. What emerges from this is a world that communicates without noise, coordinates without crowds, and reveals itself only when necessary. Light does not dominate the deep ocean. It punctuates it. It offers just enough information for life to continue without drawing unnecessary attention. As depth increases further, even these living lights become more selective. Energy grows scarcer. Signals shorten. Some creatures abandon light altogether, relying instead on touch, pressure, and chemistry. Others refine their glow to the bare minimum, reducing it to a single point or a faint trace. Darkness becomes the default again, with light appearing only as an exception. Beyond this, the ocean enters a realm where isolation deepens, distances grow larger still, and life adapts not just to pressure and darkness, but to scarcity itself. Size behaves strangely in the deep ocean. Animals that appear familiar near the surface take on different proportions as depth increases, growing larger, heavier, or longer-lived than their relatives above. This pattern, often called deep-sea gigantism, is not the result of abundance or competition, but of patience. In a place where food arrives slowly and conditions change little, growth stretches out over long spans of time and bodies follow suit. Cold plays a quiet role in this. Deep ocean temperatures remain low and remarkably stable, often hovering just above freezing. Cold slows chemical reactions, metabolism eases, cells divide more slowly. Growth does not stop, but it proceeds at a pace that would seem glacial to surface life. When nothing forces an organism to grow quickly, there's no penalty for taking decades or centuries to reach full size. Darkness contributes as well. Without light-driven ecosystems, energy enters the deep ocean in fragments, drifting down from above or emerging from chemical reactions near the seafloor. Meals are unpredictable, but the environment itself is consistent. There are no seasons to race against, no sudden collapses followed by blooms. Life that can wait often benefits from doing so. Over long periods, this waiting accumulates. Bodies that grow slowly but steadily can become immense. Muscles thicken gradually. Skeletons, where they exist, expand without strain. In the absence of frequent disturbance, size becomes an advantage rather than a liability. Larger bodies can store more energy, endure longer gaps between meals, and move through water with greater efficiency. Some of the most striking examples of this slow expansion are found among animals that seem almost unchanged over time. The Greenland shark is often mentioned not because it is aggressive or fast, but because it embodies endurance. These sharks move slowly through cold, dark waters, feeding opportunistically. Their growth is so gradual that individuals may not reach maturity for more than a century. Radiocarbon dating of their tissues suggests lifespans measured in hundreds of years. They do not rush. They do not need to. Deep-sea corals offer another perspective on time. Unlike the colourful reefs of shallow water, these corals grow in darkness, building their structures millimetre by millimetre over centuries. Some colonies alive today began forming before recorded human history. They grow without sunlight, relying on particles drifting through the water, assembling intricate frameworks that become habitats for countless other organisms. Their age is not visible at a glance. It is written into layers that accumulate quietly, one after another. In the deep ocean, time leaves physical traces. Slow growth allows tissues to repair themselves thoroughly. Damage accumulates gradually, often offset by long periods of rest. Without constant stress from predators or environmental swings, bodies can persist far longer than those shaped by faster worlds. Even reproduction reflects this altered sense of time. Many long-lived deep-sea animals reproduce infrequently, investing heavily in each offspring. There is no need to produce large numbers quickly. Survival rates can be higher when conditions remain stable. The future is not uncertain in the same way it is near the surface. It is simply distant. For humans, this way of living is difficult to grasp. We're accustomed to change measured in days and years. In the deep ocean, change is measured in decades and centuries. A coral branch grows, a shark matures, a population shifts its range by a small amount over generations. Everything happens slowly enough to seem almost still. This slowness alters how events are experienced. A disturbance, when it does occur, can have effects that last far longer than expected. A trawling net that scrapes the seafloor may destroy structures that took thousands of years to form. Recovery, if it happens at all, unfolds on timescales far beyond a human lifetime. At the same time, the deep ocean offers continuity rarely found elsewhere on the planet. Species persist through ages with little change. Lineages stretch back millions of years. Adaptations that work are refined, not replaced. Evolution here is conservative, favouring stability over experimentation. To imagine time in the deep ocean is to imagine a different rhythm of existence. Days and nights lose meaning, seasons fade, what remains is duration. Life unfolds not as a series of events, but as a long, steady presence. As depth increases and environments become even more isolated, this sense of slow time deepens further. In some regions, water masses have not mixed with the surface for centuries. Creatures living there exist almost entirely removed from the world above, shaped by histories that rarely intersect with ours. Time in the deep ocean does not announce itself. It does not pass in obvious markers or dramatic shifts. It accumulates quietly, settling into bodies, landscapes, and behaviours until it becomes part of the structure of life itself. When nothing changes quickly, there is no need to prepare for urgency. Survival is not about reacting fast, but about lasting. This is why so many deep-sea giants appear calm, even indifferent to the world around them. Large size here is not used to dominate territory or intimidate rivals. It is a form of quiet insurance. A larger body cools more slowly, starves more slowly, and recovers more thoroughly from injury. When food is rare and unpredictable, being able to endure long gaps without feeding matters more than being able to seize every opportunity. In cold water, chemistry slows down. Muscles contract less explosively, nerves fire with less urgency. The entire nervous system operates at a gentler pace. This does not make animals less capable. It makes them precise. Movements are deliberate. Reactions are measured. Nothing is wasted on unnecessary speed. The Greenland shark drifts through this kind of time. Its tissues accumulate markers of age not because it is old in the way we think of age, but because it has simply continued. Year after year, decade after decade, it remains present. It feeds when it can. It rests when it must. It carries parasites on its eyes without apparent distress, navigating its world through senses other than sight. Its life does not feel long from its own perspective. It feels consistent. Deep-sea corals tell a similar story without moving at all. Their growth records changes in the ocean over centuries, storing chemical signatures of temperature and water composition in their skeletons. They become archives simply by existing. Each layer forms slowly, patiently, unaffected by daily weather or surface chaos. Storms pass above without reaching them. Human history unfolds without interrupting their construction. Because time moves differently here, recovery also moves differently. When something is damaged, it is not replaced quickly. A broken coral branch does not regrow in a season. A disrupted community may take centuries to reassemble. This vulnerability is not obvious at first glance, because the deep ocean looks unchanged for so long, but once altered, it remembers. Many deep-sea animals show little outward sign of age. Wrinkles, scars, and wear that mark time on surface animals accumulate slowly or not at all. Cells divide carefully. Repair mechanisms operate efficiently. Without strong sunlight, DNA experiences less damage. Without constant motion, tissues experience less strain. Aging becomes less about decline and more about persistence. Even death behaves differently here. When an animal dies, its body may sink slowly, becoming a rare and valuable event for others. A single carcass can support an entire community for years. Creatures gather, feed, disperse, and leave behind structures that continue to shape the environment long after the original body is gone. Time extends even into decay. This slow redistribution of energy reinforces the rhythm of the deep. Nothing is rushed. Everything is reused. Life feeds life across spans of time that overlap and interlock. A coral colony shelters fish. A fish dies and feeds scavengers. Scavengers leave behind nutrients that settle into sediment. Bacteria transform those nutrients into forms that support new growth. The cycle continues without hurry. From the surface, it is tempting to think of the deep ocean as static, frozen in place. But it is active in a different way. Its motion is measured in accumulation rather than change. It evolves not through sudden shifts, but through endurance. This difference in tempo can make the deep ocean difficult to protect. Damage may not be visible immediately. Consequences unfold slowly, often beyond the timescale of human observation. By the time change becomes obvious, it may already be permanent. Yet this same slowness offers insight into another way of existing, a way that does not depend on constant growth or rapid response, a way that values stability, patience, and resilience over speed. In the deep ocean, time is not something to race against. It is something to inhabit. Life does not move through it. It settles into it. Beyond these giants and their long lives lies another layer of the deep, where scarcity shapes behavior even more strongly, and where survival depends not on size or longevity, but on efficiency and cooperation in a world with almost nothing to spare. In a place where light is scarce and energy is guarded carefully, solutions tend to look unfamiliar. The deep ocean does not reward symmetry or elegance in the way the surface world often does. Instead, it favors designs that solve very specific problems, even if the results seem strange to human eyes. One of the most striking examples of this is a small, slow-moving fish that drifts quietly through the water with a head that appears almost unreal. At first glance, the barrel-eye fish looks incomplete. Its face seems soft and open, as if something is missing. Where most animals have opaque bone and muscle, this fish has a clear, dome-like structure. Through it, the interior of the head is visible, including a pair of eyes that do not look forward, but upward. The skull itself is transparent, not as a trick, but as a solution shaped by darkness. The world the barrel-eye inhabits is one where prey is often silhouetted faintly against what little light filters down from above. Tiny animals drift overhead, barely visible, outlined only by the slightest contrast against the dim background. To detect them, looking forward is not enough. The most useful information comes from above. The barrel-eye's eyes are large and tubular, designed to gather as much light as possible. They are fixed in an upward orientation, scanning the space above the fish for movement. From below, this gives the fish an advantage. It can remain still, conserving energy, while watching for the subtle passage of food overhead. When something passes into view, the response is gentle and precise. The transparent head allows this vision to work without obstruction. Bone and muscle would block or scatter what little light exists. By replacing those structures with a clear fluid-filled dome, the fish allows light to pass through unimpeded. The eyes sit protected inside, looking upward through the transparent tissue as if through water alone. This transparency serves more than one purpose. In the deep ocean, being seen can be dangerous. A solid, reflective surface can give away an animal's position even when it's not moving. Transparent tissues reduce this risk. Light passes through rather than bouncing back. The outline of the body softens. The fish becomes harder to distinguish from the surrounding water. Many deep-sea animals use transparency this way. It is not invisibility, but reduction. Edges blur, shapes dissolve. Predators searching for contrast may pass by without noticing anything unusual. Transparency is most effective in a place where light is already limited. Against darkness, even a faint reflection can matter. The barrelie's body continues this theme of efficiency. It is small, lightly built, and slow. There is no excess muscle, no unnecessary ornamentation. Everything it has serves a purpose. Movement is minimal. The fish drifts, adjusting its position with small fin movements rather than swimming continuously. When it does feed, it does so without drama. The upward-looking eyes track prey until it drifts close enough to capture. There is no chase, no burst of speed. The energy saved by this patience is energy that can be used to survive longer periods without food. The idea of beauty does not enter into this design. Nothing about the barrelie's appearance exists to impress or attract attention. In fact, its form does the opposite. It avoids notice. It blends into the background. It exists quietly. This kind of solution appears again and again in the deep ocean. Bodies are shaped by need, not by display. Fins are sized just large enough to maneuver. Eyes are positioned where they gather the most useful information. Tissues are thinned, softened, or cleared when opacity offers no advantage. What may seem alien or unsettling at the surface makes perfect sense here. Each feature reflects a careful trade-off. Seeing better from below means giving up a forward-facing gaze. Protecting vision means enclosing it in fluid rather than bone. Avoiding attention means sacrificing bold shapes or colours. The barrelie fish is not an oddity in its own world. It is simply one answer among many to the same set of conditions: scarce light, sparse food, constant pressure. In response, life experiments not with extravagance, but with precision. Studying these animals often challenges human expectations. We're accustomed to thinking of evolution as a process that produces streamlined predators or visually striking forms. In the deep ocean, success is quieter. It is measured in how little energy is wasted, how rarely danger is encountered, and how effectively an organism can exist without drawing notice. Transparency, upward vision, slow movement, and minimal structure all serve this goal. Together, they create a creature perfectly suited to its environment, even if it appears strange to us. The deep ocean does not care how something looks. It cares only whether it works. Beyond the barrelie and animals like it, there are even more unusual solutions waiting in the dark. Creatures that bend light, scatter it, or avoid it entirely. Bodies that seem fragile but endure. Designs that would fail instantly at the surface, yet thrive where pressure and darkness rule. The barrelie is only one example of how deeply the environment shapes form, but it makes something clear that appears again and again the farther down you look. In the deep ocean, the body is not a statement. It is a tool. Every curve, every softness, every absence of structure reflects a choice made under pressure and scarcity. Many animals here carry transparency beyond the head. Some fish have bodies so clear that their organs are visible, faint shapes drifting inside them like shadows in glass. This is not a trick of light. It is a strategy. When little light exists, reflecting it becomes dangerous. Transparency lets light pass through, instead of bouncing back toward watching eyes. The animal remains present, but unreadable. This works especially well in the open water where there are no rocks, no plants, no surfaces to hide against. In such a space, blending in does not mean matching a background. It means becoming part of the water itself. Transparency blurs boundaries. It makes edges disappear. Predators searching for contrast often pass right by. Other creatures take a slightly different approach, scattering light instead of allowing it to pass cleanly through. Their tissues contain structures that diffuse faint illumination. breaking it into softer patterns that are harder to interpret. Rather than creating a clear silhouette, the body becomes a haze, difficult to focus on, difficult to follow. Upward-looking eyes appear in many forms beyond the barrelé. In the deep ocean, what matters most is not what lies ahead, but what passes above. Food drifts downward. Predators often approach from below. The faintest usable light comes from the surface. Eyes rotate, stretch, and reorient to take advantage of this geometry. Some fish have eyes mounted on stalks or angled sharply upward, sacrificing wide fields of view for sensitivity in a single direction. Others have eyes that can swivel within their sockets, scanning above when feeding and forward when navigating. Vision here is specialized, not generalized. Seeing everything equally well is less useful than seeing one thing extremely well. These visual systems often work alongside bioluminescence. A faint glow from above may outline prey. A brief flash nearby may signal danger. The eyes are tuned not just to brightness, but to timing. A sudden appearance matters more than a steady presence. Movement matters more than shape. All of this feeds into a larger pattern. Bodies in the deep ocean are designed to minimize interaction unless interaction is necessary. Movement is reduced, visibility is controlled, energy expenditure is limited. The goal is not to dominate space, but to occupy it quietly. This is why many deep-sea animals appear soft, slow, or unfinished to surface observers. We're used to judging fitness by sharpness, speed, or strength. In the deep ocean, those qualities are expensive. What endures is restraint. Even muscles are arranged differently. Rather than large, powerful groups built for bursts of speed, many deep-sea animals have long, thin muscles optimized for slow contraction. These muscles consume less energy and resist fatigue. They allow for subtle adjustments rather than forceful movement. The nervous system follows the same logic. Signals travel at speeds appropriate to the environment. Reflexes are precise rather than explosive. There is time to respond because encounters unfold slowly. Nothing arrives suddenly. Everything drifts. This does not mean the deep ocean lacks danger. It means danger is anticipated differently. Animals rely on early detection rather than last-second reaction. Sensing a pressure change or a faint flash at a distance allows time to adjust position long before contact occurs. Because of this, many interactions never escalate. A predator senses another predator nearby and changes course. Two drifting animals adjust their depth slightly to avoid collision. These moments pass without conflict, without wasted energy. The forms that result from this way of life can seem alien. Heads that are clear, eyes that point in unexpected directions, bodies that appear fragile. But these designs are not mistakes or curiosities. They are solutions refined by consistency. The deep ocean does not forgive inefficiency. Anything that costs more energy than it returns is eventually abandoned. Over time, what remains are bodies stripped down to function. Beauty, if it exists, is incidental. And yet, there is a quiet elegance to this efficiency. Transparency that turns the body into water. Vision that aligns perfectly with the direction of opportunity. Movement reduced to the minimum needed to remain alive. These are not dramatic adaptations. They are subtle, but they work. As exploration continues, more such solutions emerge. Creatures with mirrors instead of pigment. Animals that bend light around themselves. Organisms that abandon vision altogether, relying entirely on touch and chemistry. Each one reflects a different answer to the same question: how to exist where almost nothing is given freely. The deep ocean is full of these answers, layered one beneath another, waiting not to be discovered in a moment of spectacle, but understood slowly in the same way they came to be. There are places on the ocean floor where the idea of sunlight feels not just distant, but irrelevant. No glow ever reaches them, no memory of day or night remains, and yet life gathers there in dense communities, anchored to the seafloor, thriving in ways that once seemed impossible. These places rise like mountains from the deep, built not by tectonic uplift alone, but by heat, chemistry, and time. Hydrothermal vents form where the Earth's crust is thin or fractured, often along mid-ocean ridges where tectonic plates pull apart. Seawater seeps down through cracks in the rock, sinking deep into the planet's crust. As it descends, it heats up, sometimes reaching temperatures hotter than boiling water, though the immense pressure keeps it from turning to steam. Along the way, it dissolves metals and minerals from the surrounding rock, loading itself with chemicals. Eventually, this superheated, mineral-rich water finds a path back up. When it erupts from the seafloor and meets the near-freezing water of the deep ocean, those dissolved minerals precipitate out, forming towering chimney-like structures. Some vents release dark plumes rich in iron and sulfur, earning the name black smokers. Others emit lighter fluids, building pale, fragile towers that look almost sculpted. Around these chimneys, the water shimmers with heat, creating a distorted mirage in a place otherwise defined by cold. For a long time, scientists assumed such places would be barren. Without sunlight, there could be no plants, and without plants, no food chain. That assumption broke the moment hydrothermal vents were first observed in the late 20th century. Cameras lowered into the deep revealed something unexpected. Not emptiness, but abundance. Dense clusters of animals crowded around these vents, forming ecosystems unlike anything seen elsewhere on Earth. At the base of this life is a process that does not rely on the sun at all. Instead of photosynthesis, where plants use light to turn carbon dioxide into energy-rich compounds, life here depends on chemosynthesis. Certain bacteria can use chemicals, such as hydrogen sulfide pouring from the vents, as an energy source. They combine these chemicals with oxygen or other compounds to produce organic matter. In effect, they turn Earth's internal chemistry into food. These bacteria form the foundation of the vent ecosystem. Some live freely, coating rocks and chimneys in pale mats. Others live inside animals, forming partnerships so close that neither could survive alone. The most famous of these relationships involves giant tube worms, creatures that seem almost unreal in size and form. Tube worms near hydrothermal vents can grow several meters long. They have no mouths, no stomachs, no digestive tract at all. Instead, their bodies are built around a specialized organ filled with symbiotic bacteria. These bacteria use the chemicals from the vent fluids to produce nutrients, which they share with their host. The worm provides the bacteria with a stable environment and access to the chemicals they need. Together, they form a single functional system. The bright red plumes extending from the tops of these worms are not decorative. They are rich in blood vessels containing a unique form of hemoglobin. This hemoglobin can bind oxygen and hydrogen sulfide at the same time, delivering both to the bacteria without poisoning the worm. It is a precise chemical balancing act, evolved to handle substances that are toxic to most life. Around the tube worms, other animals gather. Clams, mussels, shrimp and crabs all find niches in this strange environment. Many of them also rely on chemosynthetic bacteria, either housed within their bodies or living on their surfaces. Predators arrive to feed on these animals, creating a complete food web powered not by sunlight, but by the planet itself. What makes these ecosystems especially striking is their isolation. Each vent field is like an island separated from others by vast stretches of cold, dark seafloor. When a vent becomes inactive, its community may disappear entirely, leaving behind mineral structures that slowly cool and crumble. New vents may form elsewhere, and life must find its way to them, often through larvae drifting across great distances in the deep. This constant cycle of creation and extinction happens quietly, far from human awareness. Vents open and close. Communities rise and vanish. Through it all, chemosynthesis continues wherever chemistry and heat align. These systems force a reconsideration of what life needs to exist. Sunlight, long considered essential, turns out to be optional. Energy can come from rock, from heat, from the slow movement of water through Earth's crust. Life does not require a surface, it requires gradients, differences it can exploit. In this sense, hydrothermal vents feel ancient, not just in age, but in concept. Some scientists believe that life on Earth may have begun in similar environments where chemistry provided energy long before sunlight-driven ecosystems developed. The vents offer a glimpse into that possibility, a reminder that life's roots may lie deep within the planet itself. Standing at the edge of one of these vent fields, if standing were possible, the scene would feel both alien and familiar. Towering structures, dense communities, energy flowing through systems of exchange. The only difference is the source. Here, the Earth feeds life directly. And beyond these vent mountains, stretching across the seafloor, are other landscapes shaped by the same principles. Places where chemistry, pressure, and time combine to create forms of life that exist entirely apart from the rhythms of the surface world. Around these vent fields, life organizes itself with a quiet efficiency that mirrors the conditions that sustain it. There is no excess space, no wandering far from the source. Everything clusters close, not out of competition but out of necessity. Heat and chemicals fade quickly as you move away from the chimneys, and with them the energy that supports the entire system. Distance here is measured not in meters, but in viability. The animals that live closest to the vents tolerate conditions that would be lethal elsewhere. Temperatures can fluctuate sharply over small distances, shifting from near freezing to scalding hot in moments. Water chemistry changes just as abruptly. These creatures are adapted not to comfort but to variability. Their proteins remain stable under heat. Their cells resist toxic compounds. Their metabolism adjusts without crisis. Farther from the vent openings, conditions soften. Here, other species settle, feeding on the animals closer in or on the bacteria that drift outward. This creates zones of life, arranged loosely by tolerance rather than hierarchy. The system resembles a mountain slope turned upside down, with the most extreme conditions at the center rather than the peak. What is striking about these places is how complete they feel. Despite being isolated and temporary on geological timescales, vent ecosystems contain producers, consumers, and decomposers. Energy flows, matter cycles. Life persists as long as the vent remains active. When it shuts down, the system does not collapse violently. It simply thins. Animals disperse or die. Bacteria fade. The structures cool and become quiet stone again. This impermanence shapes how vent species live. Many produce larvae that can drift for long periods, carried by deep currents until they encounter another active vent. These larvae are small, resilient, and patient, capable of surviving in low-energy conditions while waiting for the right environment to appear. In this way, Life remains mobile even when its adult forms are fixed in place. Chemosynthesis itself is a subtle process. Unlike photosynthesis, which depends on light and produces oxygen, chemosynthesis operates quietly without visible byproducts. Bacteria extract energy by rearranging molecules, turning chemicals like hydrogen sulfide into usable fuel. This process releases little heat, little motion. It happens invisibly, molecule by molecule. Because of this, vent ecosystems do not announce themselves until you are very close. There is no gradual transition from barren to alive. One moment, the seafloor is empty sediment and rock. The next, it is crowded with towering worms, clustered shells, and drifting animals. Life appears suddenly, not because it arrived quickly, but because its boundary is sharp. These systems challenge the way we think about dependence. On the surface, life is tied to cycles of light, weather, and seasons. At vents, none of that matters. There is no sunrise, no winter, no storm. Energy comes from below, steady as long as the vent remains open. Time here is governed by geology rather than climate. This independence from the sun has implications beyond Earth. If life can thrive using chemical energy alone, then sunlight is not a requirement for biology. Worlds with subsurface oceans, volcanic activity, or chemical gradients may offer similar opportunities. The deep ocean becomes not just a place to study life, but a model for where else it might exist. Even on Earth, vent ecosystems remain reminders of how flexible life can be. They show that biology does not cling to a single strategy. It adapts to what is available. Where light is absent, chemistry becomes currency. Where heat rises from the planet's interior, life gathers around it. The animals that live here are not primitive or temporary experiments. They are specialists, refined for their niche. Their bodies reflect the same principles seen throughout the deep ocean: efficiency, restraint, precision. Nothing exists without purpose. As exploration continues, more vent systems are discovered, each with its own variations. Different chemistries produce different communities. Some vents support dense worm fields. Others are dominated by shrimp or microbial mats. The pattern repeats, but the details shift, shaped by local conditions. Beyond the vents, the seafloor stretches outward into vast plains, ridges and trenches where energy is even scarcer. There, life adapts once more, relying on what drifts down from above or what seeps slowly from sediment. The lessons learned at vents echo outward, showing how life persists even when its sources of energy are thin and distant. In the deep ocean, the sun is not forgotten. It is simply replaced. Earth itself becomes the provider, offering heat, chemistry, and time. And life, as it always does, learns how to listen. Far above the seafloor, life is constantly shedding pieces of itself. Tiny fragments break away from plankton, waste drifts from animals moving through the water, microscopic shells sink after death, and minute clumps of organic material slowly form as particles collide and stick together. None of this falls quickly. It descends at a pace almost too slow to notice, drifting sideways as often as downward, guided more by currents than gravity. Over time, these countless fragments create a steady, silent rain that never truly stops. This slow descent is known as marine snow, though it looks nothing like snowflakes when seen up close. The particles are irregular, soft-edged, and constantly changing shape. Some are barely visible. Others form larger clumps, fragile and easily broken apart. Together they form the primary source of food for much of the deep ocean. In a world without sunlight or plants, this quiet fall becomes the foundation of survival. From the perspective of the surface, marine snow feels insignificant. Each particle is tiny, each fall is slow, but over immense spans of time the accumulation matters. The deep ocean does not receive its energy in bursts, it receives it as a constant trickle. Life there is built around this reality. As marine snow drifts downward, it passes through layers of water already shaped by patience. Animals in the midwater feed on it as it falls, removing some portion before it ever reaches the bottom. What remains continues its descent, becoming more processed with depth. By the time it reaches the seafloor, it is often depleted, altered, and sparse. Yet even this reduced form is enough to sustain entire communities. The seafloor itself is not barren. It is a receiving world, shaped by waiting rather than searching. Many creatures live partially buried in sediment, extending delicate feeding structures into the water to catch passing particles. Others spread out across the bottom, moving slowly, collecting what has settled. There is no rush. The snow will keep coming. Some animals remain almost completely still for long periods, conserving energy while waiting for food to arrive. They are not inactive, they are attentive. Sensitive structures detect the faint disturbance of settling particles or the subtle chemical signatures they carry. When food arrives, the response is measured and efficient. This way of living favours restraint. Chasing food across distances would cost more energy than the reward provides. Waiting, by contrast, aligns perfectly with the environment. The deep ocean does not punish stillness, it rewards it. Marine snow also connects worlds that never meet directly. Material produced near the surface eventually becomes nourishment for life thousands of meters below. A plankton bloom, a fish-feeding frenzy, even the decay of a large animal all contribute to this slow rain. Events at the surface echo downward long after they occur, softened and spread out over time. Because of this, the seafloor holds a record of activity far above it. Changes in surface productivity can alter the amount and composition of marine snow, affecting deep-sea communities months or even years later. The connection is indirect but persistent. Some deep-sea animals have evolved to recognize rare windfalls within this steady snowfall. When a large carcass sinks, it creates a temporary oasis of abundance. Creatures gather, feed, disperse, and leave behind a transformed patch of seafloor that may influence life there for decades. But these events are exceptions. Most of the time, the deep ocean lives on fragments. Sediments on the seafloor slowly accumulate this material, forming layers that build up over thousands of years. Each layer reflects conditions at the time it settled. Together they become a quiet archive of ocean history, storing information about climate, productivity, and life long past. The animals living on and within these sediments are part of that archive as well. Worms, crustaceans, and microbes process the material, recycling nutrients and releasing them back into the system. Nothing is wasted. Even the smallest particle becomes part of a larger exchange. This constant receiving shapes behavior and form. Mouths are often oriented upward or outward, positioned to intercept falling material. Feeding appendages are fine and sensitive. Movement is slow, deliberate, rarely more than necessary to reposition or adjust. The seafloor does not demand exploration. It offers provision to those willing to wait. In this way, it mirrors the deep ocean itself, a place defined not by action, but by continuity. Marine snow never announces itself. It simply arrives, particle by particle, shaping life through persistence rather than abundance. Over time, this quiet snowfall supports one of the largest ecosystems on the planet, sustained not by light or heat, but by patience. The snowfall never truly stops. Even when nothing appears to be happening, it continues through years of calm seas and years of storms, through migrations, blooms and collapses far above. Down here, the rhythm is steady enough that life has learned to trust it, not because it is generous, but because it is reliable. A small amount, arriving endlessly, is better than abundance that disappears. Many deep-sea creatures are shaped around this certainty. Sea cucumbers glide slowly across the bottom, drawing sediment into their bodies, extracting what little nutrition remains and leaving behind cleaner sand. Brittle stars spread their arms into the water like delicate nets, catching particles before they ever touch the ground. Sponges filter enormous volumes of water, relying on the faint organic traces carried by the snow. None of them hurry. There is no advantage in speed. What looks like emptiness to human eyes is, to these animals, full of information. Chemical traces cling to each fragment of marine snow, carrying hints of where it came from and what it contains. Specialized receptors detect these signals, guiding feeding without sight. In darkness, chemistry becomes memory. Microbes play a central role here. Bacteria coat the falling particles, breaking them down even as they descend. By the time marine snow reaches the seafloor, it is often less about the original material and more about the microbial life it carries. In many cases, deep-sea animals are feeding on bacteria rather than on the remnants of surface life itself. The snow becomes a vehicle for invisible ecosystems. This microbial processing continues after settling. Within the sediment, layers of bacteria thrive at different depths, each adapted to specific chemical conditions. Oxygen fades quickly below the surface, replaced by other compounds that microbes use to survive. These processes recycle nutrients slowly, releasing them back into the water column, where they may eventually rise. Completing a cycle that spans kilometers and centuries, the patience of the seafloor extends to reproduction as well. Many deep-sea species release larvae that drift for long periods, carried by currents before settling far from their origins. Some may travel for years before finding a suitable place to land. The snow beneath them provides both food and context, shaping where life can begin again. In this environment, success is measured not by dominance, but by persistence. Species that can endure long gaps between meals, that can wait without weakening, that can make use of almost nothing, are the ones that last. Evolution here favors restraint over ambition. This seafloor absorbs more than food. It absorbs time. Changes that happen quickly at the surface are stretched thin by the time they arrive. A productive season above becomes a faint increase in snowfall below, spread across months. A collapse becomes a slow thinning, barely noticeable from one moment to the next. Life responds not with panic, but with adjustment. Because of this buffering, the deep ocean often feels older than it is. It holds on to conditions longer. It changes slowly. Some species living on the seafloor today may have ancestors that survived mass extinctions largely untouched, protected by distance and depth. While the surface burned or froze, the snow continued to fall. Even sound behaves differently here. The soft sediment absorbs vibrations. Movement is muted. The deep seafloor is not silent, but it is quiet in a way that feels intentional. A place built to receive, not to announce. Occasionally the calm is interrupted. A landslide, a sinking whale, a sudden influx of material. These moments create brief intensity, but they do not erase the underlying pattern. After the feast, the snow resumes. Life reorganizes. The system returns to waiting. Seen this way, the seafloor is not the end of the ocean. It is its memory. Everything above eventually contributes something to it, however small. And everything living there has learned to listen to that slow arrival, shaping bodies, behaviors, and entire lives around the certainty that something will come, even if it takes time. Water carries sound the way air carries light, not gently, but efficiently. Vibrations travel through it faster, farther, and with less loss of energy than they ever could above the surface. A single low note, released deep in the ocean, can move across entire basins without fading, slipping between layers of water as if guided. This is not because the ocean is empty. It is because it is dense, continuous, and willing to transmit whatever passes through it. Sound behaves differently here because water molecules sit closer together than those in air. When one vibrates, it nudges the next almost immediately. There is less space for energy to escape, less friction, less dissipation. What begins as a pulse becomes a message that can travel thousands of kilometers without losing its shape. For animals living in darkness, this changes everything. Long before humans ever placed microphones into the sea, the ocean was already full of voices, cracks and groans from shifting ice, the distant rumble of underwater earthquakes, the steady hiss of rain striking the surface far above. These sounds layer themselves into a background hum that never truly goes away. Life evolved within this constant acoustic presence, learning not only how to hear, but how to listen selectively. Somewhere in the mid-depths of the ocean lies a band of water where sound travels especially well. Pressure, temperature, and density align in such a way that sound waves bend inward, rather than escaping upward or downward. This natural corridor is known as the deep sound channel, though animals have been using it long before humans gave it a name. Within this layer, a sound can become trapped, bouncing gently and moving forward with remarkable efficiency. Whales discovered this long ago. When a whale sings, it does not sing into emptiness, it sings into structure. Low-frequency calls slide into this channel and stretch outward, crossing entire oceans. A whale near one continent can be heard by another, thousands of kilometers away, not as a sharp sound but as a recognizable pattern, a presence. These songs are not shouted, they are shaped. Each call is tuned to travel far without distortion, using frequencies that resist scattering. The ocean does the rest. It carries the sound patiently, holding it together as it moves. Different species use sound differently. Some rely on it to find mates across vast distances. Others use it to maintain group cohesion in waters where sight is limited. Still others listen more than they speak, interpreting the soundscape around them for clues about their environment. The ocean is never silent, and for those who know how to hear it, it is full of information. Even small movements create echoes. A school of fish shifts direction and sends ripples through the water. A squid snaps its mantle and produces a brief pulse. These signals may seem insignificant, but to sensitive listeners they are meaningful. Sound reveals shape, motion, and distance. It reveals presence without requiring light. Some animals generate sound intentionally. Others do so simply by moving. Either way, the ocean remembers. Vibrations linger, reflect, overlap. The water becomes a recording medium, though not a permanent one. Sounds fade eventually, but slowly enough that the present is always layered with traces of the recent past. Humans first began to understand this when they started listening deliberately. Hydrophones lowered into the sea revealed a world alive with calls, clicks, and pulses. Some were rhythmic, some were chaotic. Some followed patterns that took months to repeat. Others occurred only once, never to be heard again. What surprised researchers most was not the loudness, but the reach. A sound recorded in one location could often be traced to a source impossibly far away. The ocean, it turned out, was not just transmitting sound, it was organizing it. This has consequences beyond communication. Predators listen for prey. Prey listen for predators. Entire ecosystems are shaped by what can be heard and what can be hidden. Silence becomes a strategy. So does noise. Some animals mask their movements by timing them with louder background sounds, like breaking waves or storms far above. Others produce sounds that confuse or overwhelm listeners, buying moments of escape. Sound also carries memory. Migrating whales may follow acoustic landmarks, using the unique sound signatures of regions to orient themselves. Certain underwater features like seamounts or continental shelves shape how sound moves, creating recognizable patterns that persist over time. The ocean becomes a map written not in light or color, but in vibration. For creatures living in the deep, hearing often extends beyond what we would call listening. It is a form of awareness. The ocean announces change long before it can be seen. A distant landslide, the approach of a storm, the movement of ice. These signals travel faster than currents and farther than scent. In this way, the ocean becomes a listening space as much as a speaking one. Every sound exists within a vast shared medium, carried, shaped, and softened by water. Nothing is completely isolated. Even the deepest places remain connected by vibration. The deep does not just hold sound, it distributes it. As sound travels, it bends gently with the structure of the water itself. Temperature gradients curve its path. Pressure nudges it downward, then upward again. The ocean does not let sound escape easily. Instead, it folds it back into itself, allowing a single vibration to wander far longer than it ever could in air. This creates a strange intimacy across distance, where events separated by entire oceans can still be faintly aware of one another. For whales, this is not an abstract property, it is daily reality. A low call released into the water does not vanish after a few seconds. It continues outward, thinning but intact, until it meets another listener tuned to its frequency. These songs are not improvised noise, they are shaped by anatomy and environment, refined by generations that learned which sounds endure and which dissolve. Some whale songs last for hours, repeating slow sequences that seem almost meditative. What matters is not speed, but consistency. A stable pattern travels better than a chaotic one. Over time, entire populations adopt similar songs, then gradually alter them, as though the ocean itself were teaching restraint. A phrase changes, spreads, replaces the old one. Months later, a distant group begins to sing the same variation, carried not by movement, but by sound alone. Closer to the surface, dolphins use a different strategy. Their clicks are sharp, rapid, and precise, designed not for distance but for detail. Echolocation turns sound into a form of touch, allowing them to feel their surroundings through echoes. A single click can reveal shape, texture, even internal structure. Fish are not just detected, they are outlined. In the deep where light never returns, sound replaces vision entirely. Fish with oversized inner ears or lateral lines sense pressure changes with remarkable sensitivity. The faint displacement of water, caused by another body moving nearby, is enough to trigger awareness. There is no need to see what is approaching. The ocean announces it. Even animals that do not produce sound are shaped by it. Soft-bodied creatures reduce noise simply by drifting. Hard shells can reflect sound, revealing position. Some species angle their bodies or time their movements to avoid creating detectable disturbances. Silence becomes camouflage. The ocean's soundscape is not static. It changes with seasons, with weather, with the slow shifting of currents. In polar regions, ice sings as it fractures and reforms. In tropical waters, reefs crackle continuously, alive with snapping shrimp and feeding fish. These sounds form acoustic signatures that define place as clearly as geography. For migrating animals, these signatures matter. A familiar hum means home. A shift in background noise can signal proximity to land, depth changes, or the presence of others. Navigation happens not through landmarks, but through listening. Humans only began to grasp this when technology allowed us to remain still and listen for long periods. Early recordings revealed something unexpected. The ocean was not loud in the way cities are loud. It was layered. Low frequencies formed a constant foundation. Mid-range sounds came and went. High frequencies flickered briefly, then disappeared. It was not chaos, it was structure. As ships began crossing oceans, new sounds entered this space. Engines produced steady low-frequency noise that travelled far, overlapping with the same bands whales used to communicate. The ocean did not reject these sounds. It carried them just as faithfully. In some places, the background hum grew thicker, making it harder for animals to hear one another across distances they once navigated easily. Whales adapted where they could. Some shifted pitch, others increased volume, some changed timing, calling when human noise dipped. But these adjustments carry cost. Sound is not just communication, it is energy. To speak louder or more often requires resources. Despite this, the ocean remains a place where sound binds distant lives together. A whale does not need to see another to know it exists. A fish does not need light to understand motion. The water itself acts as intermediary, translating movement into meaning. In the deep, sound is memory, warning, orientation, and connection. It fills the darkness without illuminating it. It reveals without exposing. And it reminds every listener that even in vastness, nothing truly exists alone. For most of human history, the deep ocean was not something we misunderstood. It was something we simply did not know at all. It existed beyond reach, beyond sight, beyond imagination. Sailors crossed its surface for centuries without any sense of what lay beneath them, assuming that the darkness below was empty or hostile or somehow unfinished. Even when science began to look downward, it did so cautiously, lowering lines and nets into depths it could not yet visualize, bringing back fragments without context, pieces without a whole. Even now, after satellites have mapped the surfaces of other planets in greater detail than our own seafloor, the deep ocean remains largely unseen. Vast regions have never been observed directly. Trenches plunge deeper than the height of mountains, their walls and floors untouched by cameras or submersibles. Seamounts rise from the abyss like submerged islands, some taller than any structure humans have built, yet never visited, never named. Entire landscapes exist in darkness, shaped by geology and time, inhabited by life that has never been documented. When exploration does occur, it is often slow and deliberate. A remotely operated vehicle descends for hours, its lights revealing only what lies directly ahead. The rest remains hidden, slipping past just beyond the beam. What comes into view often defies expectation, not because it is monstrous or dramatic, but because it feels unfamiliar in quieter ways. Forms are softer, movements are restrained. Bodies seem adapted to rules different from those we know. New species are discovered regularly, sometimes in places we thought we understood. A single dive can reveal animals unlike anything previously described, living in niches so specific they were invisible until the moment they were illuminated. Many of these creatures are small, delicate, easy to overlook. Others are large but elusive, moving slowly, conserving energy, avoiding disturbance. What surprises researchers most is not how strange these animals are, but how many there are. Diversity increases with attention. The more closely the deep ocean is examined, the more complexity emerges. Species once thought rare turn out to be common. Behaviours once assumed impossible become routine. Each answer opens into new questions. Seamounts in particular act as gathering places for life. Rising from the deep, they interrupt currents, concentrate nutrients, and create habitats where animals can anchor, feed, and reproduce. Many seamounts host communities found nowhere else, species adapted to that exact combination of depth, flow, and chemistry. Yet most seamounts remain unexplored, their ecosystems intact and unrecorded. Trenches are even less understood. Crushing pressure and extreme depth make them difficult to access, yet life persists there as well. Amphipods, fish, and microbes inhabit these deepest places, enduring conditions once thought unlivable. Each descent reveals that the limits of life extend farther than expected. Despite technological advances, exploration remains selective. Time is limited. Funding is finite. The ocean does not reveal itself quickly. Much of what exists below remains untouched, not because it is hidden intentionally, but because it is vast and patient. It does not demand discovery. There is a humility in this. The deep ocean does not perform for observers. It continues regardless of whether it is watched. Its inhabitants have evolved without reference to human curiosity, living entire lives unseen, unrecorded, complete in themselves. In this way, the ocean keeps its secrets quietly, not through concealment, but through scale. It is simply too large, too deep, too continuous to be fully known, and perhaps that is part of its role. A reminder that even on a planet mapped and measured, there are still places where mystery persists, not as spectacle, but as background. Some discoveries happen almost by accident. A camera is lowered to test equipment and something drifts through the frame. A trawl meant for sediment brings up a living animal instead. A sonar anomaly turns out not to be rock, but a moving body. In the deep ocean, intention and chance often overlap. You look for one thing and find another, because so much of what exists there has never been catalogued in the first place. When a new species is identified, it rarely arrives with drama. There is no announcement in the water. The animal does not behave as if it is being seen for the first time. It moves the way it always has, feeds the way it always has, unaware that it has crossed an invisible line between unknown and named. Often, it has been there for millions of years, unchanged, perfectly adapted to its corner of the world. Some of these animals are fragile beyond expectation. Transparent tissues tear easily. Gelatinous bodies collapse when brought to the surface. Many species cannot survive the change in pressure long enough to be studied alive. As a result, our understanding remains partial. We learn shape and structure, but not always behavior. We see form without context. Other creatures surprised by their resilience. Fish pulled from trenches deeper than any human has ever gone still show signs of active life. Amphipods scavenge at depths once thought sterile. Microbes metabolize chemicals in places where energy seems scarce beyond logic. Each of these findings pushes the boundary of what we think life requires. What remains most striking is how much space there is between these moments of discovery. A single expedition may cover only a few square kilometers, in a vast ocean basin. The area explored is often less than a city, surrounded by thousands of kilometers of unvisited terrain. Maps fill in slowly, one line at a time. The deep ocean does not resist exploration. It simply does not assist it. There are no landmarks visible from afar, no gradual slopes that invite descent. Depth drops away quickly. Darkness absorbs reference points. Without instruments, orientation is impossible. Even with them, perspective remains narrow. Because of this, much of what we know comes from isolated glimpses. A vent field here, a seamount there, a trench sampled once then left alone for decades. These glimpses are often separated by years, sometimes by generations of researchers. Knowledge accumulates slowly, like the marine snow that feeds the deep. There is value in that slowness. Each return to a site reveals change measured not in seasons, but in subtle shifts. Growth rings in corals that record centuries, communities that reorganize after disturbance, then settle into new patterns that last longer than human lifetimes. The deep ocean operates on a scale where patience is not optional. Many scientists who work there speak of restraint rather than conquest. The goal is not to uncover everything, but to observe without overwhelming. Lights are dimmed, vehicles move slowly, time is allowed for animals to resume normal behavior. The ocean responds better to quiet attention than to intrusion. Even so, there are places no one has ever seen, trenches mapped only by depth soundings, seamounts known only as shapes on a screen, valleys and plains that stretch beyond the reach of current exploration. These are not empty spaces, they are simply undocumented. The ocean does not rush to fill that gap. It does not hurry to be understood. It keeps its complexity intact, functioning without explanation. Life continues in the absence of witnesses, evolving, adapting, persisting. Perhaps that is what makes the deep ocean different from other frontiers. It is not waiting to be discovered. It is already complete. Our knowledge, by comparison, is what remains unfinished. The water far below the surface does not simply sit in darkness. It moves, slowly, carrying heat and memory through the planet. Carbon that once belonged to drifting plankton, to shells, to living bodies, settles into the deep and rests there, sometimes for centuries, sometimes longer. In this way, the ocean helps steady the world, holding what would otherwise return too quickly to the air. The surface changes because the deep is willing to wait. Everything we passed on this journey belongs to that waiting. The faint snowfall of life sinking from above, the soft bodies shaped by pressure rather than bone, the quiet lights that speak where sound cannot, the long songs that travel farther than sight. None of these things exist on their own. They are part of a single movement, energy slowing, transforming, finding new forms in the dark. As we descended, the ocean did not become emptier. It became older. Time stretched. Urgency faded. Life learned to last instead of rush. Down there, survival is not about winning space, but about fitting perfectly into what already exists. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is separate. The oxygen you breathe has passed through the ocean more times than you could count. It has touched algae and whales, dissolved into water, risen again into air. The carbon in your body once drifted as marine snow, once rested in sediment, once moved through creatures that lived and died without ever knowing light. Every breath ties you to that deep cycle, connecting you to lives far older than your own. All life on this planet shares that connection. From bacteria living near hot vents on the seafloor to trees reaching toward the sun, the same chemical language flows through everything. The same code writes jellyfish and birds and humans alike. Different shapes, different stories, one shared origin. The deep ocean does not sit outside this family. It holds much of it together, and beneath the noise of the surface world, beneath weather and motion and light, the ocean continues its quiet guardianship, holding heat, holding carbon, holding time, not asking to be seen, not needing to be named. As this story settles, there is nothing you need to carry with you except the sense of depth, the knowledge that below every wave, below every moment of movement, something vast and patient remains, keeping the world in balance simply by being there. You are part of that rhythm. You always have been. Good night.